Hello everybody, this is Lara with your free daily update for Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP. They're all moving higher today and they're doing so without pullbacks and consolidations so far. That happens during bull runs quite often. It's a feature of bullish runs, parabolic growth curves. When the parabolic growth curve is interrupted, there will be a very sharp and possibly very deep pullback. So to try and identify where that may begin, we can look left on the chart to identify previous resistance. So a technical principle I want to reinforce today is the more times support and resistance are tested, the stronger they become. So when we look left on the chart, we're trying to draw horizontal lines across as many highs and lows as we can. I prefer to do this on a weekly chart because you can see more data further back, and that's important. If you can do it on a daily chart, it might be a good idea also to consider opens, and particularly closing prices are really important, but you really only want to look at that on the daily chart. So for Bitcoin, to look at where it's going to find next resistance, we don't have to look too far back because it's above that 2017 high. So we're looking back to the 2021 high, the all-time high, and how price behaved around there. Next resistance I expect could be fairly strong, about 48,000. So I've drawn this horizontal line across these highs. It was tested at these lows and tested at these lows. So it's got some reasonable technical significance. It wasn't perfect around here, so it's not going to be perfect again necessarily. Above that, I'd look for next resistance, obviously, at 68,700, the previous all-time high, which is pretty close to this high here in April, which was 64,863. So maybe a little zone about 65 to 68,700 we'll be expecting resistance. If we see a pullback, I'd look for support now about 35,000, but first, before that turns into support, we need to see price close above current resistance at 35,000. This is drawn across these lows here, and it's tested at these highs here as well. So there's some technical resistance here. It's not very strong though, so we could see price close above it today. For a pullback, I'll be looking for really strong support though, about 31,000. That's tested along here and here and here, and it was support back here. So this area 31,000 has really strong technical significance because it has multiple tests of support and resistance, and now price is moving strongly above it. Now I would expect support in that area. Next support below, quite strong, just below 29,000. That's been tested with resistance along here and here and here, and support somewhat here. And also notice that what is support, once broken through, can then turn into resistance and vice versa. So that's the concept we're using here, and the more times support and resistance are tested, the stronger they become. If price can close above reasonable resistance here, about 35,000, if there's a pullback, we will then expect that area to provide support, but it could just continue in this parabolic growth up to next resistance about 48,000. But let's see how price closes today. Price is sliced through what was resistance at 31,000. Now it expects support, now hitting resistance about 35,000. Now that we have final volume data for yesterday's session, we can see that it had really good, strong push from volume. That is very, very good for a bullish case. We can't make a judgment about the current session because it's still before 10 a.m. in the morning. So this also could turn out to be quite strong. So far, there is some reasonable volume, and it's only in the morning. ADX still tells us that there's an upward trend in place, and it's still not extreme, let alone very extreme, and certainly not as extreme as it can get for this market. RSI is now reasonably overbought. Let's expect it could get further overbought, and it can stay there for quite a while, and then exhibit multiple bearish divergence before this parabolic growth may end. Money flow is still in neutral territory. That's not overbought. So there's still a ways to go for this upward movement for Bitcoin. The weekly Elliott Wave count is the same. Today I want to draw your attention to this channel I've drawn around minor 2. I've drawn it from the end of 1 to this high labelled minute X and placed a parallel copy on the low of minute W. Price is approaching this line, which may provide resistance. It doesn't have strong technical significance because it's only got the 2 minimum required anchor points you need to draw a line. So we may see some resistance here and a little pullback before price breaks through, but because the line has weak significance, price could just slice through it quite easily. Here's the upper edge of that channel, just a different colour here on the daily chart. Price has got a little ways to go before it gets there. The invalid validation point for this wave count. I moved up yesterday, the end of minor 2, within minor 3, minute 2 to come may not move beyond the start of minute wave 1. I don't have a target for minute wave 1. I can't do that until minuet 3 and 4 are complete. I will calculate for that for you, but for now, let's look at overhead resistance for where minute wave 1 may end. When minute wave 1 ends, Elliott Wave beautifully gives a really nice structure to how the market behaves. So I'm expecting a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps up for minute wave 1 to be followed by A, B, C, 3 steps back for minute 2. And minute 2 could be really deep, following a parabolic growth curve which is occurring today and over the last several days. There's usually a really sharp reaction and a deep pullback. Now, it shouldn't move beyond the start of the parabolic growth curve, and Elliott Wave rules say no new low below 1521.78 would be expected. Minute wave 2 will give structure to that behaviour, and we'll be expecting it to be very deep in the 70, 80, 90% range of minute wave 1. 5 steps forward, 3 steps back, another 5 steps forward, 3 steps back, and so on. Gives structure to the price behaviour. To identify where this parabolic growth for Ethereum may end, let's look on the weekly chart. Let's look left to identify support and resistance. Next overhead resistance, 2020, I've drawn across this high, tested also here. So I'm expecting reasonable resistance about 2020. Was also tested for support here, but not perfectly along here. So there's some reasonable resistance here. Next resistance above 2,400. I've drawn this line to sit across the open and close here. Bit of a test here, bit of a test here. Test of resistance here. So there's some reasonable resistance about 2,400. Next resistance ahead, 3,580. This is an important swing high here in April 2022, and that area was tested for support along here and resistance here. Next area here, probably about 4,150, tested for resistance in these weeks, nearly tested here and a bit of a test here. And then finally, the all-time high, 4,865, that would be expected to quite reasonably provide resistance if price can get back up there again, and I expect it will. On the daily chart, we can see Ethereum has sliced through what was resistance at 1,800. There's now a bit of blank space above to next resistance at 2,020. We could, if we wanted to, let's add another resistance line above here. I think we might also be finding some resistance probably about 1,880. So let's add that in. That area was tested all along here for resistance, fell short along here. But yeah, I expect we may find some resistance about 1,880 with some reasonable strength. Also provided resistance back along here and also back along here. That's a decent area of resistance. So we could see the parabolic growth curve end here for a deep pullback, but again, it could very well just slice on through and then continue on up to next resistance. That's how it behaves when it's in this parabolic growth phase. My weekly Elliott Wave count for XRP remains the same. As soon as prices move beyond the end of intermediate wave 1, meeting a core rule for 3 must move beyond the end of 1. If that happens, I'll move the invalidation point up to the end of 2, but for now I'm going to leave it where it is. On the daily chart, we can see intermediate 2 over here and intermediate 3 beginning with a series of 1, 2 overlapping first and second waves, a very bullish wave count for XRP, and now it too is exhibiting some parabolic growth. Looking left on the technical chart for XRP, where can we identify resistance? We had really strong support, and there was resistance at 55 cents. That's been broken. That was tested here and here and here and here. Multiple tests this area has had, and then back here, strong tests for support as well. So that's why I said that area was very strong resistance. Now price is managing to move above it. Let's expect strong support at 55 cents. Resistance becomes support. Next resistance not as strong, 62 cents. I've drawn it across this low, some opens and closes in here, and some resistance tests back here. Above that, let's look for resistance 82 cents, some tests around about here, but a few tests around about in here. Test of support nearly, support, resistance fell a bit short here, and a test around about here. So this is a more of a vague idea, so maybe we should draw more lines and have a little zone about 82 cents, because the tests here aren't perfect. So about 82 to 91 cents, so a test of the resistance here and here and here, closes and opens in here, closes and opens in here. So a bit of a zone from about 82 to 91 cents. If it can break through 62, that would be the next area of resistance I'd expect. There's another area of resistance here, which is fairly strong, 1.348. Tested here for resistance and back here, and then of course above that a next test of resistance 1.965. We could go further back left on the chart to the all-time high. I won't do that today, but you get the idea. Draw your horizontal lines to touch as many highs and lows as you can. The more highs and lows, the more times it's tested, the stronger the technical significance. Price is sliced through what was strong resistance at 55 cents. If we see a pullback here, look out for support there, but we may not. If it's in a parabolic growth phase, we may see it just continue on up to next resistance, about 62 cents. Yesterday's session completes with very strong volume. So far in the morning before 10 a.m, this session is also having strong volume. We don't know how it's going to close, but it looks like it might close quite strongly. XRP also is indicated at the daily time frame to be in an upward trend, which is a very, very long way from becoming as extreme as it can get. This is a very bullish look from ADX. This trend is in a very early stage. RSI is not overbought, and nor is money flow. There's a very long way before this trend gets as extreme as it can get for XRP. That's it from me with your quick update today. I hope this little lesson on support and resistance was useful, and now you know how to identify where this parabolic growth curve may end. Have fun drawing those lines.